Welcome to the Butcher's Bow podcast, where the hunt meets the harvest. I'm your host, Jake Bilger, and I'm excited to share my passion for hunting and butchering with you. With 12 years of experience in the field and in the shop, I have learned a thing or two about what it takes to be successful in both pursuits. On this podcast, we'll dive into the grit of hunting, from scouting, tracking, to shot placement and recovery. We'll also explore the art of game processing, from field dressing to the final cuts, and everything in between. But it's not just about the technical stuff. We're also here to share stories of adventure from hunting trips, as well as my friends and expert guests from the industry. We'll talk about gear, strategy, and we'll talk about lessons learned along the way. Whether you're a seasoned hunter or just starting out, whether you're a butcher or outdoorsman, or someone who just enjoys a good steak, I hope you'll join me on this journey, and we'll explore the intersection of wildlife management, sustainable hunting practices, and the art of transforming wild game into delicious meals. So tune in, subscribe, and let's get started on this adventure together. I'm excited to share my knowledge, experience, and passion with you, and I look forward to hearing from you too. Let's get into it.
Live.
Yep, we're live. Welcome back to the Butcher's Bow podcast. I'm your host, Jake Bilger, and today I'm honored to be here with Branson.
Wow, time number 3. Still honored.
Trace,
Now I'm
still
honored.
an honor.
Wow, now I'm honored. Just a co-host, pretty much at this point, I think.
Pretty much, yeah.
We're not gonna have another guest on unless I'm on. That's how co-hosty.
That's how that works.
So what are we talking about today?
So today I thought we would give a recap of hunting season, because right now in the East Coast and Midwest is whitetail season for a lot of people. And I'm kind of sad, to be honest, because I've seen all these people kill these giant whitetail bucks, and we don't really have any deer hunting on the horizon for us. So I thought we'd give a good recap of California A-Zone and what we did for Blacktail this year.
Yep. No more hunting for us. We have a really early season. We have a really early bow season.
Stupid early.
We have the earliest deer season, one of the earliest deer seasons in the nation, with our archery season starting in July, which is hot, dry, brutal hunting, but good time to get on blacktail around here, because before they lose their velvet, they're a lot easier to find. But yeah, rifle season. Our rifle season is over in September.
Yeah, and I'm hoping to change the fact that we don't have any hunting by next year, and find some different hunts that we can go on, hopefully out of state, and try to find some kind of either deer or elk. And
we're
get on something like that. I've ever been told by a mutual friend of ours that I need to convince you to get out, and I'm going to work on that. So we'll see how that goes.
Yeah, we're both at the age and point in our lives now where we can afford to go hunt out of state. So I think, at least me, I've had my fun in A-Zone, and I'll hunt every year still in A-Zone. But yeah, time to go out, and I want to get some elk to eat, man. I don't even need a bull. I don't even need a trophy bull. I just want to fill the freezer with some elk.
Well, and that's one thing, because there's an opportunity I've learned about recently. We could also go to a draw unit where you can get a tag that's good for a spike or a cow, but it's in a unit that's so restricted because it has trophies in it. So it'd be surrounded by big bulls.
Yes.
Just not allowed to shoot them. You have to kill a raghorn or a cow, which I'm perfectly fine with, especially for being so early on in our elk hunting career.
Yeah, I got to get our feet wet.
Definitely. And like you said, it fills the freezer. But you also get the experience of being around those bigger, mature trophy bulls.
Yeah, you're in the atmosphere of it.
You get to learn about it. That's what I want to see.
Yeah.
You get more encounters, more experience on the ground. It's more than you can learn from any YouTube video or any mapping software hunting app.
What state do you want to go to? What state are you looking at? Because I know
a few different ones. Honestly, I was thinking probably either Utah or Wyoming.
Gotcha.
But that's still yet to be seen. It's still early. Want to do more research and figure something out.
I was told Idaho doesn't have points, so for going into it with no points, having no advantage over anybody else in these states, I think I was going to do Idaho for sure. And then maybe Colorado, just because I have friends that know the area or could put us in an area.
That is, local knowledge is always a big plus.
Yeah.
Idaho, however, I think the draw might be ending soon for Idaho.
I think December 10th or something like that.
Yeah, so it's coming up. So if we're gonna do that, I want
Got to do it quickly.
Yeah, got to get on that.
Yeah, and it's a lottery system, so I'm pretty sure you have just as many odds as everybody else to draw.
You're talking about resident versus non-resident?
Yeah. Obviously, I think the resident system is going to be a lot different for them than it is for us. But Colorado, no out-of-state points anymore. No out-of-state tag. No out-of-state over the counter. That's right. So that was kind of originally what I was going to do, but yeah, not anymore.
Yeah, that plan got axed pretty quick.
Yeah, but for a long time, I had no desire to leave A-Zone. I love chasing big blacktail. It's so fun. And
you can also do that in other states too, like Oregon.
Yeah, but that's something you can't hunt. You'll hunt better at in your home turf.
True.
And Oregon doesn't make them as big as where we make them. So, and also I think we should probably clarify, because we'll eventually be posting pictures of a lot of these blacktail we shoot here in A-Zone. These are not 100% blacktail. These are bench lake bucks that have been crossbred throughout the years with mule deer, California mule deer, and even around here some weird stuff. The Hearst Ranch brought in a bunch of exotics back in the day, and people think that some of these coastal deer are still crossbred with some of these exotic varieties that have been brought in. So we did some beef for a guy the other day that said he's seen some white ones come out of this breeding.
Like albino?
Albinos, yeah. And it's got sandbar deer over there and mouflon sheep, all stuff that got away from the Hearst Ranch. So some weird stuff, but mostly bench lake blacktails. They're, I'd love to know the percentage. I think the further you get towards Carrizo, the more mule deer they have in them. And then as you get closer to the coast, the more blacktail they have in them. But the areas that I'm hunting are largely bench lake bucks. So they have the advantage of getting bigger than your straight blacktail, which is another reason why I don't really have a desire to go to Oregon. Oregon makes big, giant, heavy dark horn blacktails.
Definitely.
But I still think bench lake blacktails get the biggest, get the widest. They have the mule deer looking frame rather than like a cagey, tight horned, like true blacktail. Now on the west side of like Paso, a lot of those deer are still probably almost pretty pure, because you can just look at them and you can tell they're quite a bit different than the plains bucks out here. But yeah, no, haven't really had the desire to go out of state. Like hunting blacktail too much.
It's all about the opportunities, though. Trying to find good opportunities is a little bit harder in this state. A lot of it, the public land isn't really as, doesn't pay off as much as private land around here.
Yeah, poor management. Our public lands are largely sagebrush. There's very few huntable areas that are high quality, habitat dense deer areas.
They just don't seem to hold deer. The deer seem to move through them, if anything.
Yeah, and they're smart critters. They're just always on the private side. A lot of these public places have good private ranches connected to them. But then, I've been through 4 or 5 different permissions in the last 5 or 6 years because, it's faster.
Is it?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I've been through 4 or 5 permissions in the last 4 or 5 years, just because keeping a permission on a place is hard, because these properties people are buying and selling like crazy. Hunting's popular where we're from, so if you have a place with blacktail, probably someone's got family that already hunts it. So finding a place to hunt is half the battle.
That opportunity is just crazy hard.
And these blacktail are in hubs in the county. They're not spread out. They're in hubs. There's certain ranches that have, a massive population compared to others. And they've basically found the places that don't have vineyards. and don't have vineyard like depredation tax.
Well, and the ones that do, typically they'll guide them out and sell them for crazy amounts of money as a guided hunt.
Yeah, almost any big ranch around here is going to already have a private contract with a guide service. And a lot of it's pigs, but some of it is blacktail. Blacktail is probably a quarter of it for most of these guys. The pigs were inundated with wild pigs around here. But if you can find a place, it's fun. It's fun.
We need to get on another wild pig hunt.
Yeah, they hit the hay. They hit the hay. They hit my hay when the grain pops, and that's about it. They stay in the hills.
So that's not until probably March, right?
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah,
and then
March.
Easy to get to them at that point. But besides that, they're there all year. They're just nocturnal. They're coming in the middle of the night. And I don't have a huge desire to eat the wild pigs. If we do, we'll usually shoot a small one. I usually just let buddies come out and try to get them when the hay's popping. But yeah, we've had a couple good blacktail years. Should we go over our last couple deer we shot?
Yeah, sure.
This year I shot my biggest deer to date, and almost my second biggest. I shot my biggest deer, and almost followed up with my second biggest deer, which the neighbor ended up shooting. But the one I ended up with was one of these permissions that we're about to lose because the property's going up for sale. But my cousin and I have had permission here for 2-3 years now. And we've taken 2 trophy-sized blacktail and 3 trophy-sized blacktail and 2 other small ones. Big piece of rolling oaks, wild oats, connected to a vineyard, and they kind of live in the back, and then at night they'll come up to the vineyard. We don't ever really end up seeing them in the vineyard. But funny thing is, the last year, we got a buck. We found this canyon that's close enough to the vineyard that they could make it there in 5-10 minutes walking, but not so far. You know, it's convenient, it's hidden, but it's close to where the vineyard is, where they're feeding. So when we found this spot and first got in there, we kind of snuck in quietly, and there's this solo tree. As soon as you get over this knoll to drop down into it, there's a little drop off from an old wash, and at the bottom there's an oak tree that sits underneath this wash. And I figured it'd be where they were if they were in there. And we were taking one of his friends to try to find him a meat buck, and we walked straight to that tree, peeked over the corner, and sure enough, there was one there. So we got that one down last year, and then this was always kind of like our last place we checked when we hunted this property. So we had hunted throughout the morning, and we were at our very back corner, and we're walking. My cousin and his buddy are behind me and my buddy, and we're kind of both working this. We push canyons a lot to find the blacktail because they will stick and stay. So we're kind of, one guy's halfway up, and the other 2 guys are 3/4 of the way up. One guy is on top. We're kind of pushing towards the bottom, and my cousin whistles at me, and he's got first pick on all these bucks. I mean, he had permission on this property before any of us. And we look down, and there's 3 bucks laying so close together that you just see a pile of horns, and they're all looking at us. You can't really see what's going on. And Dylan couldn't pick out one that he liked because last year he shot a 20.5-inch 4x4, so he's looking for a big one this year. Can't really pick out one he likes, and they get up and take off running. The first one that runs out is a 2-year-old, and the second one that runs out is a 3.5-year-old. And the third one that runs out is a 6-7-year-old 25-inch fork, bases the size of baseball bats, and they're dead sprint up the side of this hill. And I called out to Dylan to shoot the back one. And at some point through all of this, Dylan never gotten eyes on the back one. So he says, "I don't want it, you shoot it," as these deer are running up the hill. So I thought, okay, I can't believe he's passing this buck, but he's giving me permission to shoot it. I'm definitely going to try to shoot it. Well, first one right over his back, second one right over his back, and this is not a far shot, 150 yards, but they're at a dead sprint, but he's on a steady angle to where I feel like I can get a good shot at him, and I was going for a neck frontal, like I was going for, he was 3/4ing away, and I was going for either neck or high shoulder so that I didn't wound him and have him, I wasn't going for a body shot. I was going for a kill.
You wanted to cripple him.
And if I'm going to hit this, if I'm going to take a shot at a moving buck, I'm going to shoot at a spot that I know if I hit him, he's not going to run off and die somewhere. And all 4, which is the capacity of my gun, went right over the crest of his shoulder. I just could not get far enough in front of him. So I watched the biggest buck.
Was he climbing a hill?
Yeah, climbing a hill at a 45 to my right. Got to the fence line and jumped the fence, and at that point we just watched him take off onto the neighbors. Wow. And so I was bummed. My buddy was there who doesn't have permission on this place with no gun, so he just watched this all happen. And first really like big buck that I'd shot at and missed. So I'm bummed, and we're going back to our last chance canyon, right? And so we say, well, obviously, let's go check that tree before we go home. The one that's kind of underneath that wash.
How far away is this tree from where you just had this gun battle?
This is probably almost a mile more.
Okay,
it's a good distance.
Good buffer. Yeah.
Yeah, and the way this place has some deep draws, so
right.
the noise
sure echoes
is not
different
traveling.
directions.
Exactly. Yeah. So we go to check this tree, and my cousin kind of goes down on the left side, and I kind of go down on the right side of this little knoll, and the tree's at the base of this knoll in the center. And my cousin gets around to where he can see a buck, and I look over, and he's already on his knees with his clicked his safety, and he shoots. And me and my buddy Wyatt are above the tree on the other side, and we see this 3x3 with a 6-inch kicker off its left side, over well outside of his ears, come flying by us at like 6 yards away, because we were on his escape path. So he comes by us at 6 yards. We could tell he was not wounded or anything. No blood, no shot, clean miss, we thought. So it goes up and over, and I was able to get a shot on it going up the hill that happened to hit it high shoulder where I was trying to shoot the other one, and dropped it. So we're all celebrating, get the buck drug out, get it down to the truck. And this is by far the biggest buck I've ever shot. We're all kind of in awe. A dropper on a blacktail or a kicker on a blacktail, anything's crazy. Well, the kicker ended up having a little fork at the end. So it was like a 6-inch kicker off his back left with a little fork on the end. And we're sitting there thinking, holy crap, this is crazy. Dylan's kind of bummed. He's happy we got it, but he's bummed he missed it. So we're looking, and he hit the deer, but it had just gone through his neck cleanly and hit nothing. It like poked a hole in his neck.
Just in his hide.
Just not
he
like
pierced him.
Pierced him. Yep. And probably, maybe long term might have died because of how he hit him, but wasn't going to die anytime soon. So same tree, 2 years in a row, walked right to it and produced another 20. This one was 22 by 18. Inside spread was 22. Outside spread, I don't even know. I'm not going to go off that because that kicker makes him probably 26 or 7 or something like that. But big, old, heavy 3x3, missing teeth in the front, kicker on the back, biggest buck I'd ever shot. Couldn't be happier. Well, then later on in the year, my uncle, who lives on the property that I live on, which is much smaller, much harder to hunt, but also has good opportunity at deer. Also, we manicure it to keep the water up. We don't let people drive in the back, just to try to create a habitat for them. Well, it slowly kind of paid off, but it's hard to hunt. Well, my uncle comes and tells me, my cousin, that he saw a 4x5 in what we call Leon's Flat, which is really right over the hill from the houses. So then my cousin thought, well, maybe we should focus a little bit here. So had all my cameras going already, have 3 cell cams on the property, and eventually went back to check a camera 2 weeks after my uncle said he saw this buck. Went back to check a camera, and he's laying 70, for whatever reason, I look over my right shoulder right as I walk up to my camera, and he's laying 70 yards away in the brush staring at me. And immediately I can see the 4 on one side. I can't really tell what's going on the other side. But he's not very wide. He's like,
is he tall?
He's super tall, but he's inside his ears, and he's not very heavy. And I had already shot
something like that could definitely fly under the radar at a distance.
Oh, for sure, in the shade, in the sagebrush, you're kind of looking through a 3x12 scope.
But if you're seeing ears sticking out, a lot of people will immediately just pass them up right away.
Yeah, and that's what I was thinking, man. I've already shot a giant buck. I don't need more meat. I don't need to be greedy. I'd love to let the population of deer grow. I'm going to get a steady.
Let him breed, too.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. Four genetic on either side for a blacktail is great.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking, you know what? If this deer stands up and gives me a perfect shot, then I'll take him. But I'm going to get a steady, get eyes on him, and just try to evaluate like what he is before I shoot him. Because again, I don't want to get greedy. I already have a big buck. I got plenty of meat. Well, I'm sitting there watching, and in the same motion, this deer stands up and is before his feet hit the ground, he's already in a full sprint, and he is gone out the back of this patch of sagebrush. And I mean gone. So I creep over slow, thinking, oh, he'll maybe be on the other side. No. Creep over the next hill. No. And I'm walking out this is 600-700 yards away on the main road of our driveway. And I see him, he had made a full lap around the property. And he was going back to where he originally was. But he knew I was following him the whole time. So we saw what sagebrush patch he went into. And I called my buddy Wyatt, who's on his way home from work, who passes my house. And I said, Wyatt, you got to come push this patch of sagebrush for me because I think this buck's in here. I think we can get him out. Well, I'm hearing this buck in there. He's like coughing. He's out of breath. So Wyatt goes through it one time, nothing. Wyatt goes through it another time, nothing. We both go through it with my cousin watching, nothing. Cannot push this thing out. Can't turn it back up. And so that night I told Jamie, I'm going to go sit in the back corner of the property. So I'm up in the back corner of the property about 6 o'clock, and I get a ring on my cell cam. And I get a ring on my cell phone, a vibration, and I'm thinking nothing of it. And so about 40 minutes later, I think, I better check who texted me. That buck was at my water hole while I was sitting in the back corner of the property, 450 yards away.
Wow.
And I thought, okay, I'll sneak over there and see if I can get to him. Well, snuck over there, was gone. I didn't want to push him out again, so I left him. The next morning, I debated going back out, but I had work. I thought, I really shouldn't cancel on work. My client's nice. They wouldn't care, but I really shouldn't cancel on work. So I was planning to go to work. So I got up, took a shower, got out of the shower, game cam pings again. He's there at 6:15 in the morning drinking. So I run out there real quick just to see if I can catch him there at the water hole. Not there. So I thought, all right, that's fine. He's on a pretty good pattern. I'll go to work, come back, hunt him this afternoon, and then tomorrow morning. Well, I hunted him for 7 hunts in a row, 4 days, morning and night, and I never saw him again. And I thought, dang it, he's gone. He moved off with another doe or whatever. And he was, I had gotten pictures of him by that time, and he was what I thought was a 4x3. Looked like he had 3 on the right side, but nothing crazy, kind of spindly, not super heavy, not something like old and nasty that I would want to shoot. So I was not too upset about it, really. And I thought, oh, cool, this deer will breed everything, and then we'll have a 4 genetic back in this area. Well, last day of season, like I do every year, I text the neighbors to see what everybody kind of got. And Monday morning, I get a text back, and 2 properties down, which is a pretty good ways away. There's a 650-acre piece in between us and this other place. Well, they sent me a picture of some old guy holding this 4x4 because he had a kicker off his 3. So I would have had 2 kicker bucks in the same year, a 4x3 and a 4x4 and a 3x4, opposite sides.
Right.
So I asked the guys, what did he measure? He said 19 and a half. I said, bullshit. He goes, outside. I go, yeah. That's what I thought.
Yeah.
So I still think I was right to not shoot him. I don't think I think it was the right choice to let him live and let him try to breed.
Well, the thing is, you never knew what could happen. So
exactly.
You gave him at least the opportunity to hopefully to have stayed on your property or in the area and to have covered more does.
Yep, and you know what? He was doing it. He had 6 does when they shot him. So he would have had the whole valley. He would have had every doe in that valley because nobody was going to...
Well, hopefully they let him finish is all I can say.
Hopefully, dude. Hopefully you got a Hopefully
That's
you
the
got
ethical thing to
a
do.
few of those bucks. I mean, yeah, that's the gentleman thing to do.
Of course.
Yeah. But he got he's gone. He's gone. Um, not always upset about stuff like that a little
I mean,
bit,
at least
but
you
not the
had
end of
those
the world.
encounters.
Yeah, exactly. Had those encounters and gave him a chance to live. The guy that got him, I guess, had been on like a 10-year dry spell and hadn't killed a buck.
That's a way to come out of it.
Yeah, and he had already missed like 4 or 5 deer that year because he couldn't hold his gun up. He had some big, I noticed in the picture, he had some big, heavy, looked like some long range. I think he said it was a 308, but it looked like it was a bull barrel, heavy, looked like fiber stock with a big old like night force scope on it or something. And I'm thinking, well, yeah, no wonder you couldn't hold it up. That thing's probably 12 pounds.
Shot him from your porch.
Yeah. But he was tickled to death that he got him. So good for that guy.
Cool.
I'm happy for that guy.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
Still. And I'm glad at least you knew, because on my side of things, I have no contact with any neighbors at all. I would never know.
Yeah,
I would still be hoping this year. Hopefully he came back.
I would be hunting him for 4 years.
My trail cam would be out there for the entire year. Like, oh, is that him? No,
Yeah.
That's not him.
Yeah, that's right.
Or I would talk myself crazy and be like, oh, I think that's him.
Yeah.
And it's just a different deer.
He was 1 year away from just blowing up too, because he was probably 4.5, 5 years old, which is that's of age. I mean, I'd accept that's of age for sure.
Mhm.
I mean, most of them probably don't make it to 3 around
Exactly. I say anything past 3, I deem a mature buck.
here. And then some make it to 7, and I don't I don't know, maybe older, but it's pretty darn old. The oldest one I've seen was the one I killed, 3x4, the 3x3 with the kicker, and he was missing some front teeth, and most everything was worn down to gums.
But I dropped that one off at the taxidermist for you, and yeah, I can vouch that thing is a true. It's everything you'd want. It's the uniqueness of the kicker. It's got the width. He's got the height. He's got the mass. He is the quintessential trophy blacktail.
Yeah, I can never. It's very possible that I never shoot one bigger than that.
Or very more. Hopefully you can go for something more unique at least.
Yeah.
But it's gonna be tough.
Yeah. Yeah, and I've always wanted a 4. I want a true 4.
You want that symmetry.
Yes.
Yeah.
I want that blacktail 4x4 with deep forks, not some little pissant 4. I want that deep 4.
Mm-hmm.
And I've seen plenty of them after season. And there for a while, we had 2 or 3 years where that genetic was really strong. And we'd see every year, we'd see 2 of them after season. And some not slouches, 20 plus 4x4s, heavy old deer. But they got the walk. I got a bunch of pictures of them. We should at some point, maybe the next Blacktail podcast we have, we'll throw up all these trail cam pictures, because I've got 15 or 20 trophy blacktail on trail camera that probably died of old age.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, just never got to shoot them.
Sad.
Sad, but also they deserve their chance too.
Yeah, no, they definitely have it.
Yeah,
that's one reason they die of old age, is because they're so smart and elusive.
Yeah, and
can avoid predators and cars all year.
And with blacktail, probably more than any. I mean, I don't know. I can't speak to experience, but you've got to pass deer to find one, because the big ones are going to come out the last week of season if you're lucky. And you might have already seen 4 or 5 bucks earlier. But if you shoot the first deer you see around here, you'll never even know that the 6-7-year-olds exist.
I have to agree with that, sadly, yes.
Yeah. And then the year before I shot one there that was a solid 4x3, but very, very wouldn't even call them forks to make him a 4. Little kickers, little stickers, mm-hmm. More than anything made him a 4. And I was smitten with that buck. I was thrilled with him. Didn't get him mounted. Euro mounted him, which I'm glad I did. I already have 2 mounts on the wall, about to be 3. But that was a similar kind of thing. We saw him about to leave that day. And funny thing is, he was in the same canyon, that little tree I've been talking about, the little honey pot. when we shot that smaller buck that year, he took off the other side towards the back of the property. And so we did another loop and ended up finding him going over a hill into the biggest draw on the canyon. And everybody had to leave. I was the only person that could stay and hunt. My cousin had to take his buddy back to his truck, which was pretty good ways away. So I said, well, just drop. I could see that the buddy he was with was in there. So I said, just drop me off. I'm going to huck it over this hill and see if I can drop over the top of him. And it just worked perfectly. As soon as I got to the top of that hill, looking down into these trees, I saw his buddy, and I just waited long enough till I could finally pick him out. And he was in the nastiest little patch of sage, or little patch of buck brush, mixed with like a little baby. Like he was just stuck into something. And that's just what they do. They don't like to move. They like to hide. They'll let you walk past them before they move. But it just happened to be that I was right over the top of him. 150-yard shot. Easy pot shot. Dropped him, was able to go back and actually get a Kubota for him, and drove in and picked him up with the Kubota. That one we shot this year, me and Wyatt had to drag like a mile. And we had blisters on our feet so bad after that because we didn't expect to do much walking. That property is not really much walking. We ended up dragging that thing. And let me tell you, when those deer get old,
They get heavy.
Golly, they get heavy. This was by far the biggest deer I'd ever killed. And Jake still got one bigger that he loaded on the quad by himself.
It was, yeah, so I might as well tell that story right now.
Yeah, that's your biggest buck to date.
And
so
my first
far.
buck.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
So that buck was last year, 2022, and no, 2023.
Yeah, 3.
Yeah,
23.
Yeah, because for the last 4 years, I've been hunting the same property, and since I got trail cam pictures of a 3x2, I've been sodding after him for a while now. Real big, real mature 3x2, a lot of mass, kind of angular forward in his antler.
Yeah.
Kind of similar to a whitetail or a traditional blacktail, not really that muley type setup. So I've been looking for that one for a long time.
That area is really black. They all really look.
They do.
Heavy blacktail.
I've seen 2 real nice, I would classify them as trophy blacktail during archery season, about 35 yards uphill in brush where I couldn't get a shot. And I was at a stalemate there for probably 10, 15 minutes.
Oh, that's brutal.
Yeah, because they're right there and you can't do anything about it. And the second I made a move and stepped out, they booked it over the horizon.
And that place is thick.
It is the thickest property I've ever seen. Mostly poison oak, a lot of just down brush, and I mean, you can't see 10 yards sometimes.
No, it's dense forest bed.
Yeah, with a couple open fields.
Yeah,
and that's only because the property owner actually does fire control once a year. And just discs everything on that he can. But all this other stuff with the thick oak underbrush, like he can't touch.
Yeah, it's brutal.
So it's perfect hiding places for these deer. So that buck was very old, mature, probably 6-7 years old. I got him probably second to last day of season, so it's on track with your experience and your pattern. Those mature deer don't come out till later, or you're not going to release right into them till later. That one, I've been seeing a buck in that area all that week, and I kept going every day after work, and just couldn't get a good shot opportunity. And I was still hunting with a bow during general even that year, and this was either the first or maybe the second hunt I brought my rifle with.
Yeah.
Just because I wanted to get my feet wet. I've
Draw
seen
blood.
I had plenty of shot opportunities given if I had a rifle.
Yeah, you could have shot probably 10, I remember.
Yeah, but I couldn't because there was stuff
Plus
in the
70
way,
or
they were 100 yards plus out.
Yeah.
So that's the main thing I was doing. I was looking to try and get a opportunity 100 yards plus or within, granted, but something I knew I could do with a rifle. And the wind changes constantly on that property, but there's only a couple places where you can hike in undetected on road that it's still dirt, but it's graded to the point where there's no leaf underbrush and you can walk in silently undetected. However, the wind has to be right on the given day or time that you're coming into the property.
Yeah, the terrain is steep. The thermals are insane there. And the leaves,
like nothing I've ever seen before.
Yeah, the live oak dry leaf beds are 2 feet deep in some spots.
Yeah, it is just almost impossible to move off the road undetected.
Yeah.
Even in the places that are disc, there's still remnants of the weeds that make sound.
Yeah,
a lot of it's got goat heads or Russian
Starved,
thistle.
yeah.
And it's some nasty stuff to go through.
It's blacktail heaven. That's what they love. Yeah.
And I think that's one reason that in the water they stick so close to it, around with surrounding vineyards with deer fence. But it's open on some sides, so they can come and go as they please. They just tend to stay, which is good for us. But anyways, I was going all the way to the back quarter of the property. I believe it's 250, 260 acres. And I was going up a graded road where I knew my wind was correct, because the previous couple days I've been busted on wind constantly. And so I decided to come in at this other angle where I knew my wind would be appropriate. And I was coming up a graded road with thick poison oak on both sides. I mean, you can't see 10 yards through this stuff on either side of this road, with tall oak trees, dense canopy. And I remember seeing some movement up the road to the right. So it was actually technically off the road, but into one of those top disked fields that was on the hilltop. And all I saw was this massive spread of what I thought was 3 points on one side, and because he was sideways, so I thought it was this 3x2. And I was able to get a range on him just barely before he looked at me. He was 120 yards away, uphill, but I could see that I had a decent backstop of another hill behind him. So I just put my rifle up offhand at 6 power and took my shot.
Like a work shot, like killing a beef.
Like killing a beef, but a little bit further away, much louder, also with no ear protection.
Yeah.
Not used to that too much. As soon as I had the shot ring off, I saw him disappear out of my view behind all the poison oak. And I didn't have any logic to this whatsoever, because I'd never done that before. I took off running up that graded road as fast as I could, rifle in hand, everything.
I would have too.
Just sprinting.
Yeah, I just want eyes on it.
And I had to go probably another 200 yards up the road and then do a steep turn to the right into that disc field.
Yeah.
And I put up my binos, and I could see him plowed up right where he stood. He just dropped instantly. Just
didn't even move.
Did not move, right where he was. And so I ran up on him and completely finished. Was good. Everything was great. I let the landowner know, hey, I took a shot, got a deer, got a buck down. I'm going to try and get him out of here.
When you walked up to him, were the horns what you thought they were going to be?
No.
So what happened to
Don't they always get smaller? That's what I hear, at least.
Ground shrinkage is a thing.
This was still a beautiful buck. Super unique buck. He's about estimated 6 to 7 years old. Had no teeth left. One side, his left side, giant base into a giant fork with a huge eye guard.
And I mean giant. He's not lying when he says giant. We'll post a picture of this thing.
He's almost 20 inches tall, but not very wide. And then on the other side, same solid base, but it's broken off into a small stubby fork. So I
wouldn't even say broken off. Maybe in velvet broken off, but it's almost
he still had velvet on him too.
Yeah.
And
it was almost like, it's like when a buck gets hit by a car or gets shot in the ass. And they're one side
diverted growth.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Yep.
That I could definitely see that being a possibility. But super, super different buck. Never seen him before on camera. Never seen him before in person before that day. I've never seen a deer like that ever. I mean,
I've never seen a mutated deer like that get that big. The one, if his one side matched the other side, he's an absolute trophy. Still is a trophy, but the one side is huge.
Oh, it would have been amazing to see him in symmetrical form.
20-inch tall, and he's every bit of 20 inches. When you look at a picture of him, 20 inches for a blacktail, to be 20 inches tall is crazy. And this thing's got beer can bases and a nasty eye guard. And the other side just grew like a club. It was weird.
It's almost rounded off tips on this little tree trunk type base. He's basically just got a small little, probably 4 or 5 inch, split on the other side.
Yeah, and it's no slouch either. The base on that side.
He probably could have messed up another deer with that.
Yeah,
it's short and stubby. He could have jabbed it in there. Good.
Little dagger.
Yeah, exactly. A deer like that, I would expect. Being that old, he's probably killed a decent amount of bucks in a fight or hurt them at least.
Yeah, that's like a big spike. Those big spikes are trouble.
Definitely his time to get removed from the gene pool. He had seen and done his service, and he covered plenty of does in his day.
Yeah, and he was, 140-pound carcass?
Well, so that's the thing. I go get an ATV because the landowner is generous enough to let me borrow his Honda four-wheeler.
Should have got the Kubota.
And, it wasn't up for grabs. I don't care. It was great. I rode this quad back to the spot, got it within like 10 feet of this buck where it being down. Ideal. I drag him uphill to get him to the quad. It took me 35, 40 minutes to get him onto the back of the quad. This deer was no joke, 200 pounds live. I almost broke my back. I mean, I was trying everything I could. I was standing on the back of the quad and deadlifting his horns up on. I could get his head on, but the second I got up to the shoulder, wasn't having it.
Yeah.
I think what I ended up having to do was I got his head up onto the rack and I put my feet on the engine block opposite side of this quad.
Oh, yeah.
And just rode him onto the back.
Yeah.
Once he was on the back, I didn't have anything to tie him down. So I had him basically in a sleeper hold.
Making sure he didn't get away.
Yeah, no, I wasn't letting go of him.
Yeah.
And,
Full Nelson.
Yeah. I should have named him Nelson. Anyways, had him, choked out, driving him back with one hand in the dark with this quad. He slipped off once, too, so I had to reload again on a hillside.
So you didn't have to load 200 pounds. You had to load 400 pounds.
Yeah, pretty much. My back was screaming. But by the time I got him all fully field dressed at the shop and hung up, gutless, hide off, head off, 138-pound carcass.
Dang. That's a big one. Yeah, it takes them to get that old to get that big. That's crazy.
His neck around, no joke, dwarfed my 8-inch breaking knife.
Dang.
And I got pictures of that. So I got an 8-inch Victorinox breaking knife where I cut this neck in a cross section, and the knife blade is still gobbled up by the mass of his neck alone.
Oh yeah. Was he? What were his man parts full? Did he have large testicles?
Large for who? Because I don't have a point of reference here. I would say for a deer or a lamb. I mean,
let's go animal reference. Let's stay away from the
this is a family podcast. In accordance to a lamb, I wouldn't say I've seen bigger on a ram for sure.
Yeah.
But they weren't. I wouldn't say small. Like they definitely showed while he was if he was to be walking.
Yeah.
I could definitely see them. They weren't shriveled up in underneath the hindquarters.
Gotcha. That's why I asked, because the one that I shot,
I would say avocado pit sized.
Well, that's normal. That's normal.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's normal. The one I shot that was big bodied was
hung. Opposite.
Raisins.
Really?
Raisins.
Old.
It was
very old.
I think it was like had low T or something, because
TRT replacement.
It was an old deer, but its horns weren't that big and they weren't that heavy or anything. But he was like 129 pounds carcass, big, fat, and had zero gaminess smell, zero
that's how mine
toughness.
Was too. So it was like so tender in the backstrap, not even joking. And he had about an inch and a half to almost 3/4 back fat layer over his top sirloin.
Yeah, I remember every deer that I had shot over there at this property that Jake shot his on was grape fat, man. Like, definitely super fat.
They and just delicious too. It is hard to.
That's a Cabernet blend venison right there.
There you go. Yeah, aged.
Yep, like fine wine.
Exactly. So Yeah, it was definitely hard to get that one out, um, even with a vehicle. I don't know. It probably would have took me two good trips to get him out.
Yeah, so this year you said screw it and broke them down in there, huh?
Yeah, so similar, very close to the same spot this year. I was looking for a similar caliber deer. I was sitting up on the same road, looking out over across the valley, about 300 yards glassing, because I've seen deer in that area before too, where I've tried stalking with a bow. But that part's the exact opposite. It's so open, you can't get close to them. There's nothing to hide behind. There's one singular tree in the middle of this valley.
Yeah.
And the closest I could get to this
little tree in the
this wide fork was about 100 yards, crawling on my belly, and he kept feeding away from me.
In star thistle.
Yeah.
And fire ants.
I got eaten alive.
Rattlesnakes.
But he just kept feeding away from me, and I couldn't get a shot. So anyways, I was glassing from further away, trying to entice one of those deer and get a shot opportunity on them. And I was actually cracking into a bag of beef jerky when I looked just off to my left down the fire road 60 yards, and there was a buck just staring at me. Didn't know what I was, but you could definitely tell he was curious.
You know what he thought? He thought, this guy likes beef. I'm safe. This guy's a beef eater.
He's a beef eater?
This guy's not a venison eater.
Yeah, no, that's what the rifle's for.
Yeah.
This is kind of embarrassing. I'll just tell it though. Yeah, 60 yards. This buck's staring me down, and I'm so excited that I put my rifle up. I dry fired on this buck.
Oh, you clicked on him?
I clicked on him.
Oh, yeah.
And
we've all been there.
yeah, I had an empty chamber on my rifle. And I took a nice dry fire on him for sure.
How did it feel? Good clean
beautiful.
break? Yeah.
Clean like glass.
Mm-hmm.
And I realized he didn't move and there was no bang. So I racked my bolt. And the deer stood there. And by the time I dry fire, loaded my rifle, and he was still staring at me, this thing, he was asking for it.
Yeah.
Just saying.
Yeah. You gave him a fair chance.
Definitely. Decent width. And is all I saw through the scope, to be honest. I just saw that this was a wide buck. He was legal. I was going to take a shot.
Yeah.
So I pulled the trigger, and in the second and a half of chaos, all I see is a dust cloud from where he ripped and just took off.
Yeah.
And I was just heartbroken because I never shot one that ran before.
Uh-huh.
So
you thought they all just fall?
I thought if you shot them right, they just fall right where they lay, wherever they stood. They just lay down, basically. So I start walking cautiously down the road, quietly, trying to see to get eyes on this buck where he went, and see if he piled up or if he's heard and he's walking away. But I felt that it was a solid, vital shot, that it didn't go anywhere else. I didn't miss. I didn't high spy.
Dry fire felt so good, you figured you hit him.
Yeah, no, I had a good practice shot for sure. And I get to the site where the buck was standing, and there is a good, probably 8-inch circle on the ground of blood.
Where you shot him?
Right where he was standing.
Where he took off from in a hurry?
Right where he got hit. Yeah.
Wow, I'm surprised he bled that fast.
Oh, big spot of blood. And it was already starting to get
coagulate.
Get dark almost. So I was like, huh. And I always hear dark blood, liver shot, white blood oxygenated from the lungs, but that's all from archery. I don't know if this is the same for rifle or not, because it was a lot of trauma for the shot with the 308.
100 yards,
60 yards,
60 yards. Yeah, that thing hit like a semi truck.
Yeah. So I see that pile of blood. And I immediately say, I just got to follow his blood trail. And I actually see that in part of the graded road where it's still soft, I could see track too. So I just start finding drops of blood every 5 yards or so.
Yeah.
Mixed in with the tracks. And I just had to go super slow. And every time I found a spot of blood, I'd have to look in like a 5-foot radius.
Yeah.
And just find another one and another one. And then finally, I get to the edge of the road where he dived off and went downhill, path of least resistance, into the thick concealment. And I just started going in there, and I started looking. And by the time I got into all this thick stuff, it was dark. Like, I couldn't see anything, even with a flashlight, headlamp. And I'm thinking, lions, coyotes.
Yeah, that's a deep little spot right there.
Yeah, and it's far away from people on a road, so you're bound to run into something else.
Yeah.
And also, if I didn't get a good shot on him, I didn't want to push him out onto another property where I knew he was going to die later because he was losing blood.
Yeah.
So I decided to pull out there, back out, and go home, and then come again early morning. And I flagged my spots where I last saw blood that I was on the trail. Came back early morning, first light, hiked in. Within 5 minutes of going from last blood and seeing little tiny specks of blood on poison oak leaves and a couple down sticks.
Dead right there.
I looked up 5 yards, he's dead, piled up right there.
The next morning?
Next morning.
So he died right away.
Most likely, yeah.
You were so close to him the night before?
Well, and then I got to him, and I'm pretty sure he died either right away or maybe an hour later that night.
Yeah.
But he had already bloated. Rigor started to set in a bit.
Uh-huh.
So immediately I'm just thinking about trying to save the meat because I knew it was gonna be hot that day. And I was on a steep graded hillside. All I could think of is I got to get him up to that next road because it's closer. And I came from that way, so I know there's a path versus down where it's thicker into another road. Even though if it was open, I would have totally gone down first, even though it was further. Mm-hmm. So I immediately, got his guts out and started pulling him uphill. Got him up to the road flat again, which that was a hard work in itself because it's just such a steep angle. And honestly, this deer wasn't much smaller.
Yeah.
Body-wise.
Yeah, they make them big over there.
I got him up to the road, and then I skinned him out one side at a time and boned out the entire animal minus the back legs. I left those bone in. Got him all loaded into my Kafaru and hiked him out halfway until luckily the owner met me on that same four-wheeler and was able to give me a ride the rest of the way out because I think it would have took me too long with one trip. I was starting to worry about meat spoilage, so I had to get him back to the ice chest and back to the cooler as fast as possible.
Yeah.
But by the time I got him back to the shop, I hung him in game bags.
Yeah.
100 pounds of meat.
Dang.
So
Same size.
I'm thinking 125 carcass.
Yeah.
Probably.
Well, you had to do a damn good job if it was only 25 pounds carcass. Because I think...
Well, the last one I weighed all the parts I discarded.
How much was it?
15.6 pounds.
Oh, wow. A bone.
Of bone. Just bone.
Just bone, yeah. Not trim.
So my guess is I'm thinking 25 pounds because, you're not going to be perfect field dressing.
Yeah, that's
breaking
fair.
Something down the field.
Yeah, that's fair. So 125 pounder. I would say the average deer in our area, carcass-wise, is 90. 85.
That's from what I've seen from friends, yeah. I
so,
believe that.
Just to give reference to people listening, 125, that could be twice as big as some of these blacktail around here.
Mm-hmm. Especially if someone's shooting a smaller juvenile meat buck.
Yeah.
But this one, perfectly symmetrical fork, and he's about 18 wide inside spread.
Yeah, very nice buck.
So I would say he's your typical just coming of age blacktail.
Would say most people would be
stoked,
thrilled to shoot a buck like this.
Right.
We've shot bigger, so we're more critical of them.
I felt like I should have let him live almost.
Yeah, I don't know.
I think he had potential to become a real big buck.
Yeah.
But I never know because granted, another wide buck we saw on that property died 2 weeks earlier, got hit by a car.
Yeah. That's yeah.
So you never can really play the if game.
Really, those two brothers that hung around for a while that were fork frames, and the one was a 3x2, and the other one was trying to be a 3x2. Those were the only deer I would ever see repetitively. Everything else I would see would kind of come and go. And
I think they're still there.
I think they're there, and they just don't move. You just walk right by them. Because there's been so many times when either we're hunting the forest or we're hunting the property we have in the plains that's got a bunch of junipers. They never run. They never run when they hear you or when they see you. It's always when you pass them. So we'll be going through junipers, and we'll pass a juniper, and from behind us, a deer will run out. Or one time we were leaving the forest, and we got to the parking lot where our trucks were parked, and 15 yards from the trucks was a giant buck just stuck in the brush, and he thought we couldn't see him. Well, everything's all packed up. By the time you try to go after them, they're gone. But they just sit there and watch. I honestly think they just sit there and watch, because they know if they move, then they're going to be seen. But if they stay still, they have a chance of not being seen. And then your only chance is last 2 weeks of season when they start chasing does, they just get absolutely dumb. I mean, dumb as an animal can get. They will follow to the ends of the earth a hot doe.
Well, I think that's part of the reason. There's some up on the hill right now.
Yeah, there's no one right now.
I think that's part of the reason I almost say I shouldn't have shot that deer. I mean, I'm totally thankful for him. He's an amazing buck. But I shot him, I think, the second day of general season.
Uh-huh.
I could have waited and maybe seen if that 3x2 had came back, or another bigger deer that we haven't even seen yet would come out. So that's definitely a lesson learned in my book. Now that I've accomplished what I have,
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to start looking towards the tail end of the season. I'm still going to go probably opening weekend, see what there is to see. But I think I'll probably back off mid-season and then hit it hard towards closing.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And that's really what most people that are looking for a big one do. Yeah, for sure. And it all depends what you want. I mean, if you're just looking for a meat buck, then tear it up.
Yeah.
I mean,
take whatever you can get.
Take whatever you can get.
More opportunities, more experience on the ground is always going to be better.
Yeah. But, I wouldn't say the one you shot. I mean, I would say the one you shot was a shooter, though.
Definitely.
I mean, unless you're going for a management program where you're passing deer, like that's a tough one for a lot of people to pass. An 18-inch fork that doesn't look like a young, you know what I mean?
I think it's also hard if you don't have decent predator control in place.
Yeah. That's the biggest problem with where we live. The vineyards and their depredation tags do a number on them, but then the coyotes and mountain lions they're out of control.
Yeah. Well, we're here at the shop. We're going to unload these beef. We'll probably take a break and come back for a short, brief minute after. And with the power of editing, we are back.
We never left.
No. So, you think you might want to go to Colorado now?
Yeah, I'm down. Can't disclose what unit, but we might be going to Colorado in 7 years.
But see, I don't think it has to be Colorado. I think we can find a caliber of deer like that somewhere else in another state.
Yeah, for sure. I just think all of them that are really kind of worth it are 5+ points. We just stopped to drop off a beef at the shop, and one of our buddies was there who just came back from Colorado. And he shot a stud.
Monster.
4x4. With
back kickers and how long was that drop time?
2 stickers and a 12-inch drop time.
Yeah,
that
massive drop time.
Looked like a club.
That was awesome.
Yeah, that was a great buck. That gets you pumped up for a deer podcast right there.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Well, let's start applying for Colorado, I guess.
Somewhere. It's just we gotta be on the same page and figure out what we want to do, and then just do it.
I want to do rifle though. I don't want to do archery.
For mule deer, I think I want to be rifle first at least. If for some reason we ever get bored with that, then I could go bow.
Yeah, and it's like if I'm going to spend the money to go for my first trip, I want to draw blood.
Yeah, I hear that. That's how I feel too.
But speaking of drawing blood, I got one more Blacktail story I got to tell before we leave this podcast. Sure. When I was first started bow hunting, I had bought a $400, and I was probably 20 years old. And I bought a $400 archery research compound bow and set up a stand in the back of the property, filled up a water hole, and had no idea what to expect, but just was going to go deer hunting. My family has deer hunted my property forever. Nobody's ever really shot a big deer. A bunch of little small forks. You don't ever really see them. Never really had much interest in it growing up. But then when I started bow hunting at 20, I set this little area up, got my bow, got all set up. And the first horned deer that came to water was a 3-year-old 23-inch fork in velvet. Because during archery season around here, it's all velvet.
Mm-hmm.
And he came into 15 yards.
Oh my.
Drank out of the water, turned to walk away, stopped broadside at 25 yards, gave me the perfect shot opportunity, and I picked the wrong pin.
No.
And I picked the 20-yard pin instead of the 30-yard pin.
And you didn't gap him or anything.
No. And it flew and hit his back, and I saw something fly off his back, and I saw the arrow go flying into the air. And he took off running. So I go down to evaluate what happened, and there was a strip of hide that the broadhead had cut off this deer's back, and the arrow with fat on it. You can tell a fat arrow because there's no blood. It's just grease. It looks like someone took a steak and just wiped it on your arrow. It's just greasy. So I thought, well, shit.
That's a clean
nick.
Clean
you know, probably not going to die.
Not a clean miss, but a clean nick.
Clean nick. It's not going to die, but probably sore for a little way.
He should heal and recover.
He should heal and recover. So I'm,
especially being on his back, I feel like it should be cleaner than like the belly or
the
leg
for
or anything.
sure.
So I don't think
so much meat in between the vitals and that.
As long as the vultures leave him alone,
or coyotes.
Yeah, or the coyotes.
So years go on. I ended up wounding a deer. My archery hunting success has been abysmal compared to my rifle hunting success. Wounded a deer, went back to find it the next day. Coyotes and pigs had eaten it. Found it with 30 pigs on it. They had eaten it to bones. So I walked back to the house that morning.
This was the next day?
No, this was the 2 years later.
Oh, okay.
Different deer. Smaller fork, just a meat buck with my bow, trying to get my feet wet, right? Trying to get one killed. Nicked him low in the brisket. Coyotes killed him that night because I had seen the struggle marks. Felt terrible about it. Found him with pigs eating him. Walked back to the house with a head and a pair of horns. Brutal, right? So at that point, extremely discouraged with archery deer hunting. Kind of bummed out about the whole thing. Starting to feel like I was being unethical in trying to shoot these things with a bow. Because all of these deer are dead in a heartbeat with a rifle, right? What am I doing trying to shoot them with a bow? So I'm not going to give up because this is my best opportunity at seeing big blacktails because it's early in the season and they still got velvet. Well, 2 or 3 more years go by. Don't see any horned animals on the property. Kind of give up on it. Kind of start archery hunting with my buddy at one of his ranches. That's massive, hard to get a stock on. So I had gotten to the point where I had bought a trad bow and I was just shooting for fun. I wasn't even archery, just archery for fun, right? And I really liked that. And I'd go shoot quail with the trad bow and stuff, dove and stuff, all fun. And then pretty much had written off archery hunting. We're archery hunting my buddy's ranch one day, and on the way back, I get a picture from my cell cam. No, this was before cell cams. Back when they were crappy and couldn't really trust buying one. So I had a regular camera. Well, I went back that night to check my camera, and 3 nights in a row at 7 o'clock, which is still daylight that time of year, this buck had come in, giant fork, heavy, old, giant fork had come in. This is 2020. Every night for 3 nights. So I told Wyatt, all right, I'm not hunting with you for the next few days. I'm going to go sit here and try to see if I can kill him. Well, I never got him killed.
It was with your trad bow or?
No, this is compound bow.
Okay,
I
so
wasn't going to risk.
You got your Hoyt then.
Yeah, I had my Hoyt. I wasn't going to risk the trad bow with a buck like this. And so I go and sit on him a couple days in my tree stand that I have there and nothing. But I notice when I'm not there, he's coming in. So I thought, all right, I've got to set up different. So I set up further down where I assumed he first saw my tree stand as he turns this corner. And sure enough, the night that I had sat on the ground, here he comes, walking in.
Right to the tree stand range.
Right when he gets around the corner, he stops and stares at my tree stand. And I'm sitting there watching him for probably 10, 15 minutes. He doesn't move.
He's just checking to see
locked
if you're
in, checking to see if I'm in my tree stand. And I'm thinking, oh man, his next look's going to be right. And he's going to see me sitting in the brush right there. And he's going to be gone. And it's like he decided that I wasn't in my tree stand and just lost all safety and regard. Walked straight to the water 15 yards in front of me. Drinks. This is going to be the craziest thing you've ever heard deer hunting. Drinks. walks to 25 yards. I go to gap, and I gapped the wrong, no, I'm sorry. I should have gapped, and I completely forgot about the 5 yards that I needed to add on to my 20 pin. So I shot for
20?
30.
Shot for 30, and he was at 25.
And he was at 25. You'd think 5 yards, not much difference, right?
Oh, a huge difference.
Smoked him a little bit high in the shoulder. High enough in the shoulder, right? But looked like it was still center mass. So I'm like, okay, we're good. Call my buddy Wyatt, call my wife, get the crew ready to go look for him, because that was the closest people I could think of to come help me.
Well, what happened when you hit him?
I hit him, and it sounded like I shot the side of an old redwood barn.
Crack!
The loudest crack you could imagine. It was crazy how loud it was. And I thought, holy crap, dude, it sounds like I just shot a piece of plywood. So I thought, that's not good, you know? I've never successfully shot a deer, but I feel like you hear people say it goes thump, or like thump, you know what I mean? Something like that. Well, I heard a crack, and he takes off running full speed, up and over and kind of behind me, still on the property. Luckily, because if he would have gone the other way, I never would have found the deer. He went back on the other side, got the crew together, start to go look for blood, start to go look for him. Can't find anything. 4 hours goes by. We can't find anything.
Did you have any blood at the shot?
Nothing.
Nothing.
Nothing on the site. Nothing for his first 400 yards he ran. So we went all the way. I could see where he ran, so we had a good amount to go off of visually. But then he went over the hill and we lost him. We ended up finding blood at like 9 o'clock that night, 50 yards behind where I shot him, 50 yards behind where I was. So he had looped.
Did a big loop?
He had looped back behind me because he went to the fence line. We tracked him to the fence line. He tried to jump the fence, but his shoulders were too pinned because of the arrow. So he couldn't jump the fence. So he looped back towards the sagebrush, which was behind me. So we finally got on his trail, and we tracked him all night, one drop of blood at a time. It took us from 9 o'clock at night until 4 o'clock in the morning, till I threw sagebrush on our hands and knees, one drop of blood at a time. Me and my wife, my buddy had left by that time, had gotten to the point where we were physically and mentally exhausted. We could not track him anymore. And we had moved into the end of this little trail where it starts to open up, and I heard him get up and run at 4 o'clock in the morning. And I'm like, you've got to be kidding me. This is not going to happen again. I'm going to lose another big buck. He's going to be wounded, and I'm going to feel terrible. It's like same thing, right? So the next, we go back, sleep for 2 hours, wake up at 6, and go back out there. And at this point, faith is low. Very little hope that I'm going to find this deer. So I said, all right, we got to start just cutting swaths across this property. So
just burn it all.
Just burn it all, right? So we go spread out and start walking, gridding it all out. And I walk 15 feet from this buck. And I look over to my left, or my wife looks over to the left, and she goes, he's right there. And he's perfectly alive, laying down in between these two tiny pieces of sagebrush with the arrow sticking out of his side still.
Holy crap.
And I'm like, oh.
And did you have your bow with you?
I had my bow with me, but I didn't have a shot on him because we had his butt at that point. So I had said, all right, well, we know he's not really going to run. I'm going to walk around the other side of this sagebrush patch and just see if he's still there, I can get a frontal shot on him laying down. And it just happened to be that I could get far enough around the other side that I got a frontal shot on him laying down. And when he took up to run, I could tell that he wasn't doing well because he was wobbly.
Yeah. And
he went a couple 100 yards into another patch of sagebrush where we eventually moved in. I moved in to make sure he was dead, where he was in fact dead. That frontal shot finished him. And I move in and I'm start looking at this deer and I go, this looks a lot like the buck that I first missed in 2016. It's now 2020. I go, check his back. And Wyatt takes him and flips him over. And there is a
big scar,
perfect scar from where I had missed him in 2016 or nicked him in 2016. So I said, holy crap, I kept that piece of hide. So we ran him back to the house, went in my house, pulled out the piece of hide that still had the broadhead and the hide in a Ziploc bag. And I held it up to the scar and it just fit like a puzzle piece. And we are
Please tell me you took pictures.
We are all, yes, I got pictures of all this. and got him mounted, but made sure to take pictures of the scar with the piece of hide that I still have to this day. I still have the piece of hide.
You should have had Chad like embed that broadhead into his antler.
Or like the piece of hide like in his tooth, like a cigar.
Yeah, something.
And yep, sure as shit, ended up being him. 21.
Staple it to the back of the shoulder mount.
Yeah, that's not a bad idea. And he was like 21-inch 3x2 with 4 eye guards on one side and like 7-inch bases. Just really old, nice, heavy buck. But so if you get people always wondering how big blacktail get, how old, how long they can live.
Is that your velvet buck?
That's my velvet buck. So in 2016, that thing was a giant.
Yeah.
That you're telling me that thing wasn't at least 3 or 4 years old in 2016? To be a giant,
crazy.
It's at least 3 years old. So then 2016 to 2017, that's 7 years, but a 7-year-old buck, like at least, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we're saying, I mean, safe baseline 7 years. Yeah.
Crazy.
That's the craziest blacktail hunting story I have.
And it's all at home too.
All at home, yeah.
That's wild.
Yeah. And I've passed a lot of deer there,
Mm-hmm.
just trying to let them live.
I'm trying to, hopefully they live and grow.
But
it's hard.
I get so nervous with bow hunting. I feel like I'm good at locking in with stuff, and I can overcome the nerves in a lot of stuff. But with bow hunting,
it's so exciting.
It's so nerve-wracking.
It's so exciting. Man.
It makes me, I get jittery, I get anxious.
It's like a buck in the rut.
Yeah. Yeah.
Checks out.
Yeah. Yeah. And so I've definitely failed more bow hunting than any other.
Well, I'm right there with you because I have had no luck.
Well, but besides the one I've shot, you've had the same luck I had. You've hit one maybe in the brisket, kind of like I did, and like that was a longer shot.
But never saw anything after that.
Yeah. What was that shot like?
So similar setup. I came around around a corner up a road into an open valley with a single tree on one side. On the other side, thicket of just nasty oak trees and poison oak scrub brush. And there was a bachelor party of 3 bucks right there. And I had time. Like I was undetected at that point. I was glassing and I could just see horns and ears at that point because of the rise that came up the hill. And I was trying to get a game plan together because I couldn't go anywhere around at that point. With the wind, the direction was set up perfect. It was right in my face. They weren't going to get me. They were going to either hear me or see me before they smelled me unless the thermal shifted. And I was deciding which buck I wanted to try to shoot at, how close I needed to get. When I ranged him and I was looking at him through binos, they were 100 yards away. I found out that I wanted the buck that was right in the middle of the 3. I took my pack off, started creeping in. I got to 72.
Like crawling or walking or
like a real low crouch, kind of real slow going in. And these bucks were all bedded too. By the time I re-ranged, I got up the road a bit. I got to 72 yards, and I should have tried to get closer. But by that time, I got up there, probably been 10 minutes. But one of the bucks had started standing up and was starting to feed. So I got 72 yards. I think I may have got 2 yards closer when I was kneeling, drew back on this middle buck that was standing there. Had a good anchor, solid point, pulled through the shot, let the arrow fly, and I definitely heard a connection. I heard a thwack, and the buck took off running. As soon as that one ran, the other 2 ran after him across the road into the thicket, into the thickest stuff possible. I walked up on the shot, found my arrow, had a little bit of blood on the arrow, not a lot. And sparse blood drops. I mean, talking every 10, 15 yards, there would be, the size of a pinky nail kind of blood drop. So I knew I hit him, knew it wasn't the greatest hit, not sure where I hit him, but I had a feeling that it was low, kind of brisket area. Because at the time that I was shooting, I noticed that if I shot anywhere past 60 yards, I had a trend. I don't know if I was torquing the bow or what was going on, if there was cam lean, but I was trending low left in my groups.
And that buck was broadside with facing to the left.
Broadside facing to the left. I can still see it like it was yesterday.
Isn't it funny how those images stick in your head?
Oh, haunts me every day.
Yeah.
And so I tried tracking him as far as I could across that road. I got him, and where I watched him go into the underbrush. I got about halfway up that hill, probably another 60, 70 yards. And the whole trail just disappears. There's no leftover game
Hell's
trail.
Canyon.
There's no blood, nothing like that. And at the same point, I don't know. I came back later the next day because it had gotten dark. In the daylight, I looked for vultures. I looked for any other sign. I even threw a drone up in the air, which I don't know how legal that is, but I started scouting with a drone
We'll find out.
to see if there's any to see if I could find him.
I would never promote breaking the law.
Yeah,
but I would break the law. I would think it'd be the ethical thing to do
try and
to
find
break
a
the law
buck.
to try to find a buck that I shot. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I'm not aware of any laws, but
we're sticking to it then.
But I looked for this buck for a long time, and I never found any sign of him whatsoever.
No blood at the site where you shot him?
No blood. It was just a, what would we call it? Solid nick.
Yeah, solid nick.
Yeah,
solid nick. Yeah, no,
not a clean miss, not a dead hit.
I think
solid nick.
I think those bucks live like nothing. I think those bucks just.
I think so too. It was the smaller amount of blood. I think he made it just fine.
Yeah, I just think that it takes so much to kill those things. They are so tough.
I'm sure checking the brisket every deer I kill now, though.
Yeah, that's right.
I'm looking for a scar.
That's right, dude. Oh, that'd be a crazy thing.
Yeah. What? So you said in your one from this year, you got 6 yards from him as he was running to you. Mm-hmm. I had something kind of like, but you had a rifle.
Yes. Yeah.
So one of my first years deer hunting at this property for Blacktail, I came up that same draw that I was talking about just a minute ago, and so it's thick stuff to the left, that one tree on the right, and then it opens up into a valley with a hilltop on the left that's discable, and it drops down into another like ravine. I was hiking up that road one day after work, real hot, probably 98 degrees, and as I'm coming up the road, the sun's setting in my face, so everything's kind of silhouetted.
Mm-hmm.
I remember walking up, and where all the dense brush and foliage ended on the left-hand side, where it turned into all the disc field, there was a nice fork bedded down there, and by the time I saw him, I had an arrow nocked. I was drawing back. He stood up and spun around down the hill before I could get a shot, right? So I start trying to pursue him, not running, but quickly going after him, trying to be quiet. And I come around the bend of all the brush and everything, and I come around on the other side, the top side of all that brush thicket was another small road with no climb on the other side of it for the vineyard that's across from it. And so I'm walking on this road where there's thick foliage and brush and poison oak and oak trees, and on the other side is no climb fence. So I'm like, he has nowhere to go. He's in this pocket. Like, he's in this isolated thicket right here. He has to be here. And like you said, they typically just hide. They don't want to come out or do anything to jeopardize their own life. They want to hide from you. They don't want you to know where they are. They want to stay undetected.
Yeah.
The wildest thing happened. Probably 20 yards from where I spooked him out of his bed. I'm walking up this road. I have an arrow nocked, and I have my pin at my dial set to 20 because that's the closest it really goes, unless on my sight tape.
Yeah.
This buck, no joke, jumps out of the brush at about 5 to 8 yards.
In front of you?
In front of me, almost impales me. And he does this high jump thing, when they tuck their legs to go over the fence?
Yeah.
This thing was taller than me when he jumped.
Oh, he was,
And he was going to come down on me with his antlers. He was so close, I got about halfway, drew back on my bow, and he booked it back off down the hill into the thicket.
Oh my God!
I had nothing, but it scared the Jesus out of me.
I wonder how that happened. I wonder if he was looking the other way and you crept up on him, and by the time you got that close,
I think he realized that I was so close, he thought he was going to get pounced on and died.
Yeah.
So he just moved.
Yeah, he's stuck. So that's that. There you go.
That's how close he's stuck.
That's a good example of how much they will stick.
But, I mean, this was probably waist to chest high, like natural weeds that wouldn't, that if he didn't disc the field, it would have stayed.
That's crazy. That's crazy.
Yeah, so he came out for me hot. If I had had a knife or a handgun, though, I probably would have
spear.
Maybe. Yeah, it was a good spear chuck would have got him for sure.
Shout out Tim Wells, the Schlockmaster. That's crazy, dude. You almost got.
I almost got by a decent sized fork.
Man, be a bummer of a way to go. How'd your buddy die? He was hunting deer, and the deer hunted him.
Impaled.
Yeah.
Not to mention, I think the deer would die too if you didn't come off of that, because of exhaustion. They lock up with each other sometimes.
Yeah.
What if he just has my carcass and his
dragging you around?
Antler? I don't think he could lift me up with his neck. So yeah, I think he'd just die of exhaustion.
No, it would be like the ones you see where the coyote eats the dead one off of the alive one.
Yep.
It would let the coyotes eat you.
A neck vertebrae hanging from it.
Yes.
So yeah, it was either that I got too close or he just smelled my testosterone. I don't know.
I think it's the testosterone.
Is that it?
Yeah.
Just got a rival vibe there.
I think the less testosterone you have, the easier you can sneak up on deer.
That is a solid theory. But
also, probably the less you smell like cats.
But I don't smell like cats.
You don't have a cat.
No, I don't.
No, I know.
Is that why I'm successful sometimes?
I think that's why you got so close to that one.
That's why I got good encounters?
Uh-huh.
Yeah, that could be. I'm not a big cat person.
No, that's crazy. I don't remember. I don't think you've ever told me that story. I think that's the first time
I don't think I've told anyone that story.
Yeah. Too traumatic.
Well, not even that. It's kind of embarrassing. The deer got the jump on me. So.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing how easy it is to screw up a deer hunt. And more times than not, they're unsuccessful.
Yeah.
They're unsuccessful. Yeah. But you just go with your gut. In situations like that, like every story we've had today, you just, in the moment, you'll have a feeling. You just always go with that feeling.
It just goes to a reaction.
Yeah.
I mean, that's all you can really do.
And if
when
your
you
feelings
boil
are
it down to that, kind of crunch time, you just go back to gross motor skills.
Yeah, and if your feelings are wrong and time and time again you fail, maybe you're just
happens.
bad at hunting.
That could be. Very well could be. But there's nothing that you can't get better at.
No, and blacktail's, it's hard, man. It's hard, and especially big ones.
So you think that after seeing that Colorado buck, you want to go out of state?
Yeah, oh yeah.
So if me and Casey were to set something up, you'd want to go with?
Depending on where.
Okay.
Better be good.
All right. Well, knowing Casey, we can probably make something good happen.
Casey Nix?
Yeah. Because we just talked about it last night. He's like, you have to get Branson involved on an out-of-state hunt.
He's been telling me that
and we'll go.
He has been on me for that for years and years. I know. Well, he made it pretty enticing this year when he went and killed 4 mule deer in a month.
Yeah.
The guy's an animal. 2 California mule deer, Nevada and Idaho, I think, something like that.
Yeah, I believe so.
Crazy.
So yeah. I'm working on it.
I'm down.
We're gonna have to hold you to it.
Casey's gonna want to ride your points though. Casey's a point rider.
Is he?
Oh yeah.
No, nothing wrong with that. It gets stuff done. So
yeah,
I'm for it.
Yeah. We need like 6 or 7 points for anything really good in California. But the out-of-state stuff, he's the guy to talk to for knowing which ones are a little easier to attain.
Yeah.
And then don't need as many points, still have a good chance of getting a buck. Yeah, he's like the master of out-of-state point. Like he's probably got an application every year in every single state, and then rides points from guys in California, and helps them find their deer in order to be able to hunt. Yeah, in terms of, out of everybody I know, he's the guy. He's the GOAT.
Well, we're gonna have to work with him though. We can get something planned.
He's the point GOAT.
because we need to venture out a bit and learn some stuff and have some more good interactions, some more adventures.
Yeah.
So you got anything else? Are we calling it?
I don't think so. I was just thinking. I was just trying to think.
The chicken with Jamie. Still need a Jamie.
Yeah, Jamie, pull up my list of ideas for hunting stories on podcasts. Thanks.
It's brought to you by Yeti Cooler.
Yeah. Also, Joe Rogan, we're coming for you. We got how many subscribers does Joe have right now?
Honestly, I don't know. Somewhere in like the 10 million range.
Well, we have 9 million, Joe, and we're coming for you. A couple more subscribers, and we're there.
Just a couple.
Joe Rogan, if you're listening, we're coming for you as number one podcast in the nation.
Don't need to make him mad. He's a super nice guy, from what I hear.
If you would like to have us as guests on your podcast, we would also love that. I have really probably nothing good for you, like compared to most of your guests. But just in case you hear this, Joe, if you want a couple average butchers, average deer hunters, we're more than happy to come on the podcast. But if you don't want us on the podcast, we're taking you down, and we're going to have more subscribers than you. But also, you're our hero.
Yep, definitely inspired.
So are you, Trump.
45, 47.
Donald Trump is your president, like it or not.
Yeah, we got big Blacktail guys here.
Go on. Even my T-Mobile subscribers, go on Spotify and look up the Trump playlist. It's like all of the greatest Trump rap songs, Trump support songs ever written, and just jam to it because it's good. There is some good music on there. Jake pulled it up while we were working.
I think the first one is 50 Cent Mini Man.
Yeah.
That's how it starts out. So it just kicks it off on a real good note.
That's all we're giving you. The first track is 50 Cent Mini Man.
That way you know you're on the right one.
Yeah, that's right.
All right. So, anything we got coming up soon? Hopefully Buffalo next week.
2 buffalo, 2 beef next weekend. We'll probably do another podcast.
Yeah, we can talk about Buffalo.
Yay. I'll get my loincloth and sharpen my obsidian.
Okay. if you feel so inclined to say, you could also
buffalo are hard. I don't like doing the buffaloes.
Yeah, well.
The buffalo are hard because the way
save it for next week.
Okay, sorry, saving it. Well, can we do a duck hunting one too at some point?
Of course, yeah, why not?
Right. Duck hunting buffalo podcast coming your way.
Sounds good. All right, on that note, we just want to say, sharpen your skills, elevate your game, and we'll see you on the next one.